Hi there. Welcome to Dead End Street. I'm Al. We are continuing with our Albums of the Year series. We've now reached 1984, a year in which the first time that going into it, I did not have a number one picked out. Um, and I still might change my mind when I get to the end of it. We'll see. But pretty solid year again. So let's get started here. Number 25. We're going to start with the self-titled debut from the band and also the trees. This record is pretty brooding in some places and beautiful in others, but it's very spacious throughout. It was produced by The Cure's Lol Tolhurst and bears some resemblance to the Cure's early 80s work, but definitely a unique record. And it has definitely one of the coolest band names ever. They're still around, and if you haven't checked out their new work, definitely do so. Number 24 is The Reckoning, the second record by R.E.M. There's some really great jangly guitar riffs on here by Peter Buck. Some very interesting vocal harmonies by Michael Stipe and Mike Mills. But the first half of the record carries most of the weight. Pretty Persuasion, which is a very overlooked classic, I think. South Central Rain, Harbor Coat, and a couple of others. Number 23 is going to be Some Great Reward by Depeche Mode. Now, the first three Depeche Mode records had some really good songs on them, but they were not solid albums. With Some Great Reward, they finally put together a solid album. Yes, there are some, the singles on there like People Are People, Somebody, Blasphemous Rumors, the ones that most people were familiar with Depeche Mode know. But there's some really good album tracks on here like Lie to Me and Stories of Old. However, I find Master of Service to be a completely absurd song. I still can't stand that song, but it's a very good album. Number 22 is going to be Oral Sculpture by the Stranglers. So after dipping their toe into Sophistopop with the Feline album, they step into a new wave arena here. Some of the most memorable tracks like Ice Queen, Skin Deep, and Let Me Down Easy are on here, but it's still the Stranglers and it's still weird and still good. Number 21 is going to be Big Express by XTC. Wikipedia categorizes this record as progressive pop, which is an interesting term, and I think it kind of works for this. It's experimental for sure. It's less accessible than the previous record, Mummer, and it sold less copies as a result, but I think it serves as a necessary bridge between this version of XTC and what's to come. Number 20 is Ricochet Days by Modern English. This is a very good record by a very good band who, as I've said before, I think get pigeonholed because of one particular hit song of theirs. But, and I always kind of thought that Hands Across the Hands Across the Ocean was kind of a bad representation of the record for a single. I thought Blue Waves would have been a better single, would have served the record better. And if you haven't checked out my Modern English album ranking, there'll be a link in the description below. And if you haven't checked out their new record, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you like their previous work, it's well worth checking out. Number 19 is going to be Steel Town by Big Country. So, Big Country brings the big guitar riffs, big drums, big bass lines, big choruses, big 80s production, and some really great songs on here. Stuart Adamson, I think, was a great guitarist and just as good of a songwriter. Number 18 is going to be the self-titled debut by Dead Can Dance. So this was back when Dead Can Dance consisted of bass, drums, guitar, vocals, and some other instruments sprinkled throughout. But you could definitely hear the future possibilities here on this very unique record in Brendan and Lisa's discography. And I think it's the beginning of a truly fascinating and original music career. Number 17 is going to be Catastrophe Ballet by Christian Death. Now, this record was a was a big one in my life around the time I was 19, 20 years old. And you know what? I haven't heard it in a long time, and it's just as good as I remember it. Um, the band's name I always thought was a poor representation of their sound. It's much more nuanced and melodic than that, especially the Roz Williams fronted version of the group. You have The Drowning, The Blue Hour, Cervix Couch, and a lot of really beautiful songs on here, musically and lyrically. The album's aged beautifully, believe it or not. Number 16 is the debut album by The Cult, Dreamtime. So The Cult were a really massive discovery in my musical journey when I was younger. We'll get to the reasons why in a future episode, but here the Cult start to refine their sound after leaving the Southern Death Cult and then Death Cult monikers behind to a less brutal and more atmospheric and psychedelic sound. Um, it's still a sound that's ever evolving, even 40 years later. They're a band that's impossible to categorize. However, they do tend to get lumped in with hard rock these days. But Ian and Billy are rock legends. Great, great band. Number 15 is Two Steps from the Moon by Hanoi Rocks. So if you've been following the last few years, you've heard me champion this band over the last three. However, this is the final record of their classic era. They did end up signing with CBS on this album, so they had a major label backing, and were able to enlist Bob Ezrin to produce the record, who had great success with all those early Alice Cooper records, Pink Floyd, and whatnot. And sure enough, they were able to harness some of that early Alice Cooper energy, along with some Stones and some New York Dolls swagger, and deliver a really great record to go out on. Sadly, Razzle, the drummer, would die in a car crash, and the band would disband for the next 18 years. But if you listen to the album, you'll be able to check out tracks like "I Can't Get It," "Underwater World," "Don't You Ever Leave Me," "Million Miles Away," and there's about five other songs on here. I could list the whole album. It's a great album. Number 14 is going to be "Rattlesnakes" by Lloyd Cole and the Commotions. This is the debut record from this Scottish group, and it's mature beyond the age of its creators, if that makes sense. Um, I mean, Lloyd Cole was 23 years old, give or take, when he recorded this. The instrumentation on this is really, I've used this word earlier, but nuanced. It's kind of a strange thing for a young musician, a group of young musicians. It's impressive. Lloyd Cole has a very interesting and unique cadence to his melodies. No one like him. The title track and Down on Mission Street, Forest Fire, and Charlotte Street are all great, excellent standout tracks. Number 13 is going to be One Eye Jacks by Spear of Destiny. So we get more pint-raising anthems from Kirk Brandon and company, such as Rainmaker and Liberator. It's amazing to me that the song "Prisoner of Love," that was a single, was not a hit. If you listen to it, it just belongs right there and everything that was going on in 1984, and was doing it better than the stuff that was on the charts. But great sax playing by Neil Preiser throughout the record. And if you like the idea of the Clash meets Roxy Music, then check out Spirit of Destiny. I think you'll like them. Number 12 is Brilliant Trees by David Sylvian, the former frontman of Japan. This is his first solo record. It sees the ever evolving artist pursue boundaries outside of pop music, especially considering this is 1984. It was really ahead of the curve. He manages to make very complex arrangements sound pleasing to the ear. Ink in the Well and Nostalgia are my two favorite songs on the record. And there's a very heavy jazz influence in this record, which gives it a very unique flavor. Number 11, since we're on the topic of former members of the band Japan, we have Dolly's Car. Um, this was the really wonderful collaboration between who I think is the greatest bass player ever, Mick Karn of Japan, and the at the time former Bauhaus vocalist Peter Murphy. Uh, both were out there floating in space, and they found each other and recorded this really daring record. Um, Moonlife and Judgment is the Mirror are great compositions. Um, but I think the track His Box, in my humble opinion, may be the greatest bass line I've ever heard. And it's got an incredible melody line to boot. Number 10 is Zen Arcade by Husker Du. So this is a very strange double album. As most of us know who are music fans, most double albums start off strong and then overstay their welcome towards the end. Zen Arcade starts out good and then gets great at the end. I think the last one third of the record, starting with Standing by the Sea, is my favorite part of the album. Pink Turns to Blue, Whatever, Turn on the News, all bangers. And even begin the tracks at the beginning of the record, like Never Talk to You Again, are all still great. And the whole record is ahead of its time, very eclectic, which is a very strange quality for a band that was considered punk rock at the time. Number 9 is Mirror Moves by Psychedelic Furs. This is the Furs commercial peak, and it should be. I mean, it's great hooks, great songwriting, and it's an instant time machine in 1984. And anybody who lived through 1984 and knows these songs knows exactly what I'm talking about. But this is as far as they probably should have taken the pop polish, because they go a little bit too far in the next record and then do an immediate correction. But Ghost in You, Heaven, Heartbeat, Like a Stranger, My Time, Alice's House. How can anyone resist songs like that? Great stuff. Number 8 is Learning to Crawl by the Pretenders. So after losing Pete Farndon and bassist Pete Farndon and guitarist James Honeyman Scott within a few weeks or months of each other, Chrissie Hynde and Martin Chambers take a couple of years to regroup and record a really solid record with multiple Pretenders classics on it. Middle of the Road, Back of the Chain Gang, Show Me, the perennial Christmas track, 2,000 Miles, and a really honest cover of the Persuaders' Thin Line Between Love and Hate. Not many people could have pulled that off, but Chrissie pulled it off. And there's an amazing rebound record and an amazing statement record by Chrissie Hynde. Number 7 is going to be Hallowed Ground by Violent Femmes. When people talk about the Femmes, it's usually a foregone conclusion that the self-titled debut is the best Femmes record. It's most circles, right? So, but I'm not so sure. Hallowed Ground is pretty great. Yeah, the title track is great. I um, I know it's true, but I'm sorry to say, has a really cool like Velvet Underground vibe. Never Tell is insane. It's epic, but it's I don't know. I'm not sure if the Femmes can play a show without playing that song at this point. I mean, yeah, Blister in the Sun and a couple songs on the first, but it's the centerpiece of this record, and it's just genius. Um, I'm not sure which record I like, the first one or the second one, but it's pretty damn close. Number 6 is Let It Be by the Replacements. I've always thought that this was the record where the Replacements became the Replacements. Yeah, there's still a little bit of the lack of seriousness and little kiddiness left over. But those tracks, um, some of these tracks are some of Westerberg's most sincere compositions. I Will Dare is perfectly quirky. Um, We're Coming Out is killer. 16 Blue is great. Unsatisfied is perfect. Um, That I think was Paul Westerberg's first attempt at heartfelt emotion, and it's perfect. I mean, he's a great songwriter. Um, Let It Be is a great place to start if you're looking to discover the replacements, not the records before. I think Let It Be is the place to start. Number 5 is the self-titled debut by the Smiths. I'm a massive Smiths fan, and there's some drop dead classics on this record. Hand in Glove, What Difference Does It Make? Still Ill. And on the US copies, This Charming Man, which is a song that I just don't ever get tired of. I know a lot of Smiths fans are tired of it. I don't get tired of it. I think it's absolutely genius. This also has a very overlooked classic, I think, in Pretty Girls Make Graves. I think that's a great song. The riff is amazing. The melody line is amazing. Morrissey puts a great melody line over Mars riff. And then at the end has this beautiful jangly riff that it's just used as an outro. Most people would have killed to make a riff, have a riff like that and build the whole song around it. Johnny Marr just throws it at the end of the song. But this is not their best record. We'll see that going forward. And you'll also see that Hatful of Hollow is not listed on here because it's a compilation record. And though great as it is, try not to put compilation records in here. So, but if you haven't heard Hatful of Hollow, go hear it. Number 4 is The Top by The Cure. The Top is a strange record in their catalog and often overlooked because of where it falls. It falls in between the Pornography album and Head on the Door. It's nowhere near as dark as its predecessor. It's nowhere near as poppy as its successor. It's a pretty trippy listen, especially now that I listen to it these days and I can hear it. And it should be treated much better than it does than just an odd outlier in their discography. It's a great Cure record. And the late Andy Anderson was the only album that he played on fully, and he just kills it. He's just great drumming on this album. Number 3 is Treasure by Cocteau Twins. This is the album where the Cocteau Twins found their identity. The first 2 albums were great too, but this is what they started to build off of. From the genius of Robin Guthrie's guitar to the liquid flow of Simon Raymond's bass to the ethereal bliss of Liz Fraser's voice and to the sampled John Bonham drum loops. It's a flawless record. And when I said I wasn't sure which record was going to be number 1 here, there was 3 albums I couldn't decide on. This fell to 3 for now. I might change my mind later, but it's on here. Lorelei is beautiful. Aloysius, Pandora. Persephone is one of my all-time favorite vocal performances by Liz Fraser, and the whole record is excellent. Okay, I've decided. Okay, we'll go today. I'm going to put my favorite band at number 2. So Siouxsie and the Banshees with Hyena is going to be number 2. This is an exquisite record. Budgie's drumming, as usual, is amazing. Siouxsie's voice is at its apex in this 1981 through 1988 period here. Severin's bass playing floats through every composition. And in my opinion, this is by far Robert Smith's best guitar work. And this is the only album that Robert Smith of The Cure was a full-time member as a Banshee and recorded a full studio album. And replacing the great John McGeoch was no small feat. So every song on here is damn near perfect. Robert Smith was obviously burning the candle at both ends because he ended up bolting from the band at the end of the recording of the album because he was recording The Top by The Cure, which we just talked about, and Hyena simultaneously. So the guy's in the recording studio like literally 24 hours a day, apparently. And then managed to create 2 amazing albums at the same fucking time. So, but the results here are sublime. Dazzle was written and recorded with the London Symphony Orchestra. Take Me Back, Belladonna, Bring Me the Head of the Preacher Man, the enchanting and beautiful Swimming Horses, one of my favorites, and the absolutely breathtaking Blow the House Down. That one has like 3 different spots in it where it sends shivers down my spine. Many Banshees fans consider this record to be a mix. I think those Banshees fans are on some serious drugs. The album's a 10. Perfect. So that means I let someone else be number 1 over Siouxsie and the Banshees. So what that means is these guys who I just go live 2 weeks ago, Echo and the Bunnymen, get the number 1 slot with Ocean Rain. This is a career-defining record. They could have broken up after this record and would have been legends for doing it. The arrangements on here are stunning and singular. The best part about it is they know it. Most Bunnymen fans know that every night before performing The Killing Moon, which is one of my favorite songs of all time and I don't get tired of, I'm gonna try and do my best Scouse here. And he introduces it by saying, "This is the best fucking song ever written." You know what? If I wrote a song anywhere near close to that, I'd say it too. Like I said, I don't ever get tired of Killing Moon. It's an absolute classic of the era or any era. Seven Seas is an excellent song. The title track is an excellent song. Crystal Days is an excellent song. Nocturnal Me is amazing. So many all-timers on this album. Will Sargent, Les Pattinson, Pete DeFreitas, all at the top of their game, all putting career performances. And I went ahead with Ocean Rain, I think, at the last minute because I believe this is the last shot. The Echo and the Bunny might have a shot at being number 1. Looking forward. That might come bite me in the ass later if the Banshees don't end up at number 1 anywhere. And it might be hard for them at this point, looking forward the next few years. But that's it. That's 1984. Let me know what you guys think. What did I miss? I'll actually put a little list on there because, believe it or not, this year there was about 20 semifinalists that didn't make it in. It was kind of hard. I had like 18 and then like 7 that I had to find spots for, and then 20 records to go through to get 7. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications if you like what you've been watching. We are going to be doing some more fun stuff with the gang on the channel. Obviously, we'll have 1985 coming up. I'm going to do a Jesus and Mary Chain ranking video with Dr. Byrne, and I'm going to do a classic era church albums ranking, as I'm going to see that next week. So, thanks a lot, guys. Check out all the social media too, and see you next time.